desperate and panicking Prime Minister spent the weekend calling Liberal senators, pleading with them to keep the carbon tax on farmers. Our common sense plan will take the tax off of the people who grow the food, ship the food, and as a result, Canadians who buy the food. Yesterday, he got his Christmas wish. Liberal senators gutted Bill C-234, a move that will keep food prices high while Canadians visit food banks in record numbers. So will he finally listen to the outcry? Will he listen to anyone but his globe-trotting activist environment minister and take the tax off so people can put food on their table this Christmas?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House. Well, we'll try. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The only senators that sit in any caucus are Conservative senators, Mr. Speaker, and I would note that up to 1/3 of those Conservative senators did not vote yesterday. Mr. Speaker, climate change is driving food inflation, not pollution pricing. Farmers are on the front lines of climate change. They know about climate change. They experience the effects of droughts, flood, and storms firsthand, and unlike the Conservative Party, they have no problem saying climate change. Mr. Speaker, the Conservative strategy is to ignore climate change and stay hiding in the pockets of big oil and gas. That is no strategy at all, and it is risky and reckless.
The Honourable Member for Thornhill.
Mr. Speaker, every single senator who voted against this bill was a Liberal senator. The Prime Minister's carbon tax has already ruined Christmas for millions of Canadian families. So Conservatives are going to ruin Christmas vacation for this Prime Minister and his Liberal MPs. We will stay here as long as it takes to force them to axe the tax so the Canadians can afford gas, groceries, and home heating. So, Mr. Speaker, how long are we going to be here? Is it 1 week? Is it 2 weeks? Is it 3 weeks until this Prime Minister finally relents and cancels his carbon tax on farmers, on families, and on First Nations?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Unlike the Conservatives who had their senators bully independent senators in the other place, we will stand up to the bullies on the other side. Mr. Speaker, we will continue to stand for Canadians every single day. And we know that when we put a price on pollution with the rebate, Canadians get more back than they pay. If the Conservatives cared about Canadians and their affordability challenges, they would support the price on pollution because it is putting money in their pockets. But typical Conservative style, they take from the poor to give to the rich. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Sarnia-Lambton.
Well, Mr. Speaker, this weekend it was the Prime Minister that was bullying the senators, calling them up and telling them to kill Bill C-234, a common sense bill to help farmers and families. And the Senate, you know, they listened to him. They gutted the bill, okay? But people are suffering. People are hungry. The food bank use in my riding is up over 100%. So will the Prime Minister finally listen to Canadians and take the carbon tax off farmers, First Nations, and families?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The other place actually found one of the Conservative senators in breach of privilege for the actions that he took bullying independent senators, Mr. Speaker. That member should be cognizant of the fact that independent senators can make their own decisions. Mr. Speaker, when it comes to supporting Canadians, this government has been there the entire time, whether it was through supporting millions of Canadians through the pandemic, whether it's supporting them through the social safety net that the Conservatives are looking to gut with their cuts. Mr. Speaker, in typical Conservative fashion, they're looking to take from the poor and give to the rich. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Sarnia-Lambton.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's this Liberal government that's trying to make everybody poor. But, you know, the Prime Minister, he's determined to ruin Christmas for Canadians. And so Conservatives will ruin his vacation. We will stay here and we will fight until he decides to take the carbon tax off families, farmers, and First Nations. Will he do it?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Look, Mr. Speaker, party opposite continues to spread information that is simply incorrect. When they're talking about the vote in the other place, they should really be asking the Conservative senators who sit in that caucus why they didn't show up to vote yesterday. Mr. Speaker, if they truly cared about it, that would have been the question that they were asking instead of posing this to the government that has nothing to do with the independent Senate. But what we do on this side of the House is we support farmers. We're going to be there for farmers. We're going to be there for all Canadians like we have been since 2015. We're going to keep delivering for them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Let's just all take a deep breath.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, after 8 years of this Liberal government, everything cost more, and unfortunately it's not over yet. We know that the bill adopted C-234, and even the Greens voted with us, but then it would have given us some tax breaks for farmers. But then the Prime Minister picked up the phone and personally called senators to make sure that Bill C-234 would be gutted, and unfortunately it worked, and that's the problem. Why is the Prime Minister always so intent on taking even more money out of families' pockets in Canada? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, I have enormous respect for my colleague, but he knows that the only party that is in this House that is trying to take money from Canadians is the Conservatives. Cancelling the price on pollution will leave most Canadians worse off than they are now. And if they have questions for senators, why did the Conservative senators not vote yesterday? On this side of the House, we respect democratic institutions, but we know that's not the case for the Conservatives. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. I also have a great deal of respect for the Minister, but I'd like her to explain that how come they want to seek even more money from the pockets of Canadians, and that's exactly what they're doing. But we have the solution with Bill C-234, which gives Canadian farmers a break. It means that food will not continue to rise like it has under this Liberal government. And once again, the Liberals will rely on their senators to attack this bill. When will this government and people understand that it costs a lot to vote for this Liberal government? The Honourable Government House Leader. It costs expense a lot. That's what the Conservatives would do. They would take money from the pockets of Canadians. They voted against an increase in the CCB and an increase in OIS for seniors. They voted against dental benefits for lower-income Canadians. On this side of the House, we understand that we have to be there to support Canadians, and that's something that I would like the Conservative Party understand